Something seemed to be moving inside the woman's belly. The man stared at it intently. A smug smile appeared on his face.
찾았다.
He slowly reached out to touch the girl. Suddenly books fell from the shelf. In that instant, a hand grabbed the man by the throat and threw him dozens of feet away. When Li Dan turned around, the man had vanished. That man was actually an evil spirit in disguise. The nine-tailed fox seized this opportunity. He gripped the evil spirit's throat tightly. In an instant, the spirit disappeared before him. But instead, he felt afraid. The mountain god who controls everything appeared. The mountain god warned him, hoping he wouldn't end up like her. He hoped the fox would see the girl beside him as his last chance to successfully become human. The next day, the nine-tailed fox invited Li Dan on a trip. Li Dan was curious. "You kept turning me down before when I suggested traveling. Why the sudden change now?" The nine-tailed fox said he'd had a change of heart. Li Dan was happy, but the nine-tailed fox had ulterior motives. Along the way, they took many photos together. They even visited a wishing spot. Li Dan started making wishes for herself, but soon she would be crying her heart out. They wandered around until evening. The scenery was especially romantic. Li Dan suggested they come back here next year. The nine-tailed fox froze for a few seconds.
다시. 내가 거짓말을 했어요.
Actually, I've known how to remove the bead from the very beginning, but because I wanted to become human, I needed your life force to nurture the bead, so I never took it out. Now I want to end all of this. When you wake up, these memories will all be gone. With that, he leaned close to Li Dan and removed the 600-year-old fox bead from inside her. Tears streamed down Li Dan's face. When she woke up, Li Dan had indeed returned to her normal life, but on her way to school, a familiar figure suddenly flashed through her mind.
기억이라도 안 나게 해줄까?
She crouched down on the ground and started crying. Just then her senior came over and asked with concern what was wrong. He asked if she wasn't feeling well somewhere. He had her sit on a nearby bench to rest. Watching Li Dan cry so sadly, he actually felt happy at this moment, because Li Dan no longer seemed to resist him like before. But the female fox passing by saw them so close together. The female fox was curious how Li Dan dared to get close to someone born in the year of the tiger. She thought of one possibility. The nine-tailed fox's mind was now full of images of Li Dan. Just then the female fox found him. She asked if he'd done something he regretted. The nine-tailed fox asked if she'd seen Li Dan. The female fox reminded him, "Since you decided to leave the bead inside her to nurture it, you should never have gotten emotionally involved from the start. Now that you've let go, hurry up and find your next target. You know you don't have much time left." But she was curious why you didn't erase Li Dan's memories. The nine-tailed fox said he'd already erased all memories of him. The female fox began to suspect his powers might be weakening. Soon the clear weather suddenly turned into heavy rain. Li Dan sighed that she had bad luck wherever she went. Just then an umbrella appeared over her head. She turned to see it was the nine-tailed fox. Without a word, she left in the rain. The nine-tailed fox called out to her, saying, "It's raining. Take the umbrella." Li Dan replied, "Why would I take an umbrella from a stranger?" The word stranger hurt the nine-tailed fox deeply, but wasn't this exactly the result he wanted? Unexpectedly, everyone at school was talking about a young professor arriving today. It turned out to be the nine-tailed fox. Clearly he had come for Li Dan.